Trump sets his sights on another industry, while Canada's Conservatives set their sights on Mark Carney. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
Navigating the issues that matter to you. It's Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
First came Donald Trump's threat of across-the-board tariffs. Then came a delay. After that, tariffs were announced on steel and aluminum exports from Canada to be imposed sometime next month, and perhaps coming soon, tariffs on Canada's auto sector. Speaking with news reporters at his estate in Florida, U.S. President Donald Trump said he plans to bring in 25% tariffs on imports of vehicles into the United States, along with tariffs on pharmaceuticals and computer chips.
I've been contacted by some of the biggest companies in the world, and because of what we're doing economically and through tariffs and taxes and incentives, they want to come back into the United States. And we'll be announcing various very large companies, the biggest actually, and they'll be coming back, having to do with chips and having to do also with cars and lots of other things. We're going to be announcing some very, very big, momentous decisions are being made by companies all around the world, the biggest, and they want to come back into the U.S. Car plants are being canceled in other locations now because they want to build them here. And you read about a couple, not that I want to mention names or anything, but you read about a couple of big ones in Mexico just got canceled because they're going to be building them in the United States. And that's very simply because of what we're doing with respect to taxes, tariffs, and incentives.
Trump would go on to say he'll make the announcements about tariffs on April 2nd. And he said those tariffs might even go higher than 25%.
Have you decided specifically what the auto tariff rate should be?
Yeah, I probably will tell you that on April 2nd, but it'll be in the neighborhood of 25%.
What about semiconductors and pharmaceuticals?
It'll be 25% and higher, and it'll go very substantially higher over a course of a year. But we want to give them time to come in because, as you know, when they come into the United States and they have their plant or factory here, there is no tariff. So we want to give them a little bit of a chance.
Canada assembles more than 1.4 million vehicles a year at factories owned by Stellantis, Ford, General Motors, Honda, and Toyota. There are hundreds of other parts suppliers, some small, some very large, like Magna and Linamar. The value of the auto sector to the economy of Canada is estimated to be more than $12 billion a year, and it is one of the country's largest manufacturing sectors. But President Trump has made it no secret he would rather see Canadian vehicles assembled at U.S. auto plants. Just last week, Trump accused Canada of stealing the auto sector from the United States.
In Mexico, they're building car plants all over the place to make cars, sell them into the United States. I say, no way, you're not going to do that. We're going to put big tariffs on those cars. I don't want those cars. We can make those cars right here. You know, if you look at Canada, Canada has a very big car industry. They stole it from us. They stole it because our people were asleep at the wheel. So what happens is Canada is going to have our cars. We're going to take the car industry. If we don't make a deal with Canada, we're going to put a big tariff on cars. Could be a 50 or 100% because we don't want their cars. We want to make the cars in Detroit.
Canada's auto industry employs almost 120,000 people directly. And the Canadian auto sector has been integrated with the U.S. auto sector since the Auto Pact was signed in the mid-1960s. While the American president vows to target another crucial Canadian industry, the Conservative Party has its own target. That's the frontrunner of the leadership of the Liberal Party, Mark Carney. Recent polling suggests why. A new survey from the Angus Reid Institute suggests a very close race if Mark Carney becomes the Liberal leader. The Conservatives have the support of 40% of those polled. The Liberals have the support of 37% of those polled, while NDP support collapsed to just 10%. The tightening of the federal horse race may explain why a Conservative MP, Michael Barrett, was calling for Mark Carney to disclose all of his financial assets to see if Mr. Carney has any conflicts of interest.
The customary and normal accountability practices have been completely disregarded by Mark Carney. Now, he has claimed that he will make disclosures should he be successful in an election. But what that means is he could get through the Liberal leadership and through a general election, and it would be an additional 4 months before those disclosures were completed.
As for Mark Carney, he has not been talking about his business dealings of late. His campaign instead released a new ad recently explaining why he would cancel the consumer carbon tax.
But the truth is, the consumer carbon tax isn't working. It's become too distracting and too divisive. That's why I will cancel it and replace it with incentives, so we can reward people for making greener choices, like buying a more efficient appliance, driving an electric car, or insulating your home.
According to that same survey from the Angus Reid Institute, the Trump tariff threat is not the biggest concern for Canadians right now. It's actually third, behind the cost of living and healthcare. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know, and this is News Radio.
In the 660 News Radio Groundworks Traffic Center, I'm Tanya Blakeney. This mid-morning ride is dealing with some sunshine, a few clouds starting to roll in downtown. Routes are still very cold and frozen as the warm-up begins or continues today and into tomorrow. Earlier crashes being cleaned up in the city's northeast. There was 152nd Street southbound at 32nd Avenue. It was blocking the far right lane. If there's something in your way, it's a free call, star or pound 660. Traffic for Village Honda. Akil is the real deal who delivers your perfect pre-owned vehicle with the biggest savings and same-day approval. Let him play matchmaker when you choose from over 450 vehicles at Village Honda. Now the forecast. Here's meteorologist Michael Coos.
The cold air keeps coming today, but finally getting flushed out this evening, overnight and into tomorrow for sure. Minus 14 this afternoon. The temperatures continue to rise this evening and overnight. Minus 5 by tomorrow morning and plus 5 by tomorrow afternoon. As warm as 7 under the sun on Friday. This afternoon's temperature as warm as minus 14.
Seeker is your ultimate streaming platform. Where you can listen to live radio, podcasts, sports, news, and more. Plus chances to win big. To celebrate all the content, we're giving you the chance to win a new iPad Pro, $500 in groceries, and $500 in gas. Just download the new Seeker app. That's Seekr on the App Store or Google Play. Don't forget, Seeker lets you listen to us wherever you are. The more you listen, the more you win.
The final phase of the Inglewood Sanitary Pipe Project is underway. This pipe will increase the City of Calgary's wastewater capacity to meet the growing needs of North Calgary communities. From February until July, please be patient and slow down for workers. Make sure you leave extra time for construction delays on eastbound Memorial Drive from the Bridgeland C train station to the Zoo Bridge. For current traffic detours and project information, visit calgary.ca/IST.
Hi, I'm having an issue with my...
Have you tried turning it off and on again?
Well, yes, but the problem is...
So, once it's rebooted...
You haven't even heard what the problem is!
Sound familiar? If your Calgary-based business is in need of IT solutions, or your business is growing faster than your current IT can manage, you need 403 Tech. Their local team manages your IT so you can focus on your business. Take your business to the next level at 403tech.com.
Do you know what the scariest sound to hear on a factory floor is? Silence. That means something somewhere broke. Production has stopped and now you're paying your workers to wait while the team troubleshoots and tries to fix the problem. Finally, there's a proactive way to reduce equipment downtime. Thanks to MaintainX. MaintainX is the asset management system that brings your maintenance downtime to zero. MaintainX lets you build preventative maintenance schedules, manage work orders in real time, and access the data you need to make better decisions. Downtime equals death in the production world, so make unplanned downtime a thing of the past. Try MaintainX for free. Control the daily operations of your business and transform your maintenance program by going to maintainx.com. That's maintain and the letter X.com.
critical thinking is not dead.
Now you know with Rob Snow.
Returns on News Radio.
The Prime Minister was in Montreal today. He was there making a big announcement about a rail project. And Mr. Trudeau also took reporters' questions on other pressing matters. Following it all for us is Cormac MacSweeney, the Parliamentary Bureau Chief for News Radio. Hi there, Cormac.
Hello.
What did the Prime Minister announce today?
Oh, well, it's something that's been talked about for decades. It's a high-speed rail link between Toronto and Quebec City. That corridor has long been talked about for potential infrastructure projects. And basically what they've done is they've awarded a contract. It hasn't yet been signed, but they've awarded a contract to a consortium of companies to design and build. So they're now on to phase two. Now that a contract's been given, phase two is the design and the work to try and figure out a route for this high-speed rail link. But essentially, it's going to connect Quebec City, Trois-Rivières, Laval, Montreal, Peterborough, Ottawa, and Toronto in one line that would have trains going at about 300 kilometers per hour. So that's potentially cutting travel time in half. So if you're going from Toronto to Montreal, that would take just 3 hours instead of 6 hours, depending on how fast you drive. But nonetheless, it's a huge project that has been talked about for a long time. And a lot of governments have said they've looked at it. They just said it wasn't feasible. The costs were too high, or they couldn't get everything in order to get this done. And the Prime Minister's now announcing this. So it's going to be a big project. They say it's going to really boost the economy, be a stimulus, potentially adding $35 billion annually to Canada's GDP, creating over 51,000 jobs during construction. So the Prime Minister out tooting this not long before he's set to be replaced as Liberal leader and as Prime Minister.
And it even has a name, Alto, high-speed rail between Toronto and Quebec City. It's kind of an evergreen infrastructure project for prime ministers. As you said, this prime minister has one foot out the door. He was joined today by the Minister of Transport, Anita Anand. She's not even running in the next election. How likely is it that this project will survive a change in government, whether that is a new Liberal government or a new Conservative government, Cormac?
That's a big question. The Prime Minister thinks that this will go through regardless of who the next government is, saying that it's a project and an investment in Canadians at a time that we need it. And he thinks it would be very difficult for a new government to back out. The contracts will be signed with this consortium before the Prime Minister leaves. So we're expecting those contracts to be all signed, and those companies will have something in writing that would make it a little bit difficult for a future government to back out. But, politics is politics. Whenever there's a big change in government, you often see the new prime ministers or new governments, if it's a new party in power, undo some of what their predecessors did. So that'll be a big question now for the Conservatives, for Mark Carney, for Chrystia Freeland, both eyeing the chance to replace Prime Minister Justin Trudeau in the top job, and see whether they would commit to keeping this project moving forward. Now, the other thing to add to all of this that the Prime Minister was hinting at today was the threat from the United States and the economic tariff threats. He talked about how this would use Canadian steel, aluminum, copper, create a lot of jobs. It's at a time we're facing unprecedented threats from our largest trading partner, and threats that could send our country into a recession. So if Donald Trump follows through on those threats and hits our country with tariffs on all goods and additional tariffs on steel and aluminum, then we would be looking as a country for stimulus projects and packages to try and keep our economy afloat. And this could be a prime example. However, the timeline isn't quite clear about how long this is going to take. Just the design phase is going to take 4 to 5 years. So the stimulus aspect of all of this, if we're hit with tariffs, would not be immediate enough with this project, but over the long term it would be. And so the design phase is 4 to 5 years, and it's not quite clear how long the construction would last after that. They said they still have to work that out as they do consultations and get the design and the station locations in these city centers all figured out.
Okay. So I know this was the big announcement today from Mr. Trudeau, the rail project, but he did take some time to speak with news reporters, take their questions. Mr. Trump announcing yesterday, for example, tariffs could be coming to the auto sector as soon as April 2nd, 25% tariffs on what would be a very important industry for Canada, hundreds of thousands of jobs at stake. I'm wondering what Mr. Trudeau said, if anything, about those tariffs, Cormac.
Yeah, he said he repeated the fact that Canada will stand up to the United States in this tariff standoff, and that Canada would be ready to respond, and that they will continue to stress to the United States that not only would this hurt Canada, but this would hurt the U.S. as well. Let's remember that when it comes to tariffs specifically on automobiles and the auto sector, and the tariffs on steel and aluminum that the president is threatening, the Auto Parts Manufacturing Association here in Canada, the head of that, Flavio Volpe, has said that he's heard from the heads of the largest auto companies in the U.S. and Canada saying that they might potentially shut down operations for a period of time if the president followed through, because this would significantly hit their flow, their supply chains, and that could lead to a lot of furloughs, a lot of job losses while these companies try to figure things out amid a new economic reality if these tariffs go ahead. So if we do see these tariffs, everything, the devil's in the details when it comes to this president as well. Until it's in writing, until you know exactly what you're dealing with, things could potentially change. So we'll have to wait and see what exactly the president follows through on with these threats. But that could be crippling, not just for Canada, but also for other states that rely heavily on the auto industry, Michigan being one of them, that could potentially be swing states as well, as the president looks towards the midterms, which, he's only just taken over the White House, but, it's a nonstop election cycle in the U.S. And so immediately once you start your term, you're thinking about the midterms and trying to keep control of Congress and the Senate.
The Canadian government under Mr. Trudeau has been a staunch supporter of Ukraine, and I'm just wondering if Prime Minister Trudeau said anything today about the talks that happened in Saudi Arabia yesterday and the remarks from President Trump that Ukraine should have never started the war with Russia. What did Mr. Trudeau say about that today?
Yeah, he came out pretty forcefully saying that Ukraine must have a seat at the table in any peace talks. This comes as, the U.S. and Russia are having their own discussions to end the war, and Ukraine is not at that table. Trudeau says that Canada and most of its allies are continuing to insist on this Ukrainian involvement. And not only that, but the Prime Minister is speaking with European leaders today to try and discuss potential strategies, as Donald Trump suggests that Ukraine somehow started this war, even though it was Russia that invaded Ukraine. So there will be discussions with our European counterparts to try and figure out how they address this situation, what this means moving forward, not just for security for Ukraine, but security in the whole region there. And as well, the U.S. talk of economic and political opportunities with ending this war in Ukraine. What are they getting at there? What's at stake? Is that, resource development? Is it, other opportunities that the U.S. is looking at? So those are all questions that they'll have to be discussed between Canada and our other allies, as the U.S. and Russia seem to go alone on trying to end the fighting in Ukraine and Russia. But Trudeau also saying that his government is unequivocal in opposing Russian President Vladimir Putin's, what he says, illegal, immoral, unjust violations of the international order. So there will be a lot to unpack with the European leaders today as the Prime Minister has that conversation.
All right. Thank you for the update, Cormac. Great to hear from you today. Very busy news day
Anytime.
for you. Yeah, Cormac MacSweeney is the Parliamentary Bureau Chief for News Radio. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
Well, midweek already, David, and if you're ever looking for a podcast of our show, Now You Know with Rob Snow, we have a great new mobile app that will help you hear our show when you want to. Listen live, listen to the podcast. It's called the Seeker app. That's Seekr, spelled Seekr. Seeker has all kinds of exclusive audio that you won't hear anywhere else. News, music, and sports, and you can download Seeker for iOS or Android. That's Seeker, spelled Seekr, and Now You Know with Rob Snow is on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. And you can also listen to the Big Story Podcast with your host today, David Smith, and it's all about air travel safety, David.
After that situation we had on Monday at Toronto Pearson Airport with the Delta Airlines flight that came to a rest on the tarmac upside down, Rob, a lot of people wondering what's been going on so far this year. It has been an unusually bad year so far for air travel accidents. We had the terrible tragedy in Washington, D.C. All 67 people on board that American Airlines flight died after it collided with the helicopter. But there were also two other fatal crashes in America with smaller planes, one in Alaska, one in Philadelphia. So on the Big Story podcast today, I speak with aviation expert John Graddick from McGill University, and he confirms that, yes, there are more headlines this year than usual about air travel crashes, but the example that we saw at Pearson Airport on Monday where a plane flipped, wing came off, but the fuselage, the body of the plane, held together, nobody died, is a perfect example of how engineering and air travel security and safety regulations have really developed. It is safer now to fly than it is to drive, even though we've seen all of these headlines. So a really interesting conversation with John Graddick about air travel safety today on the Big Story podcast.
Our Newsday panel is coming up next, right after the latest breaking news here on News Radio.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio. The Newsday panel.
Well, everybody's gathered for the Newsday panel, including Kate Harrison, Vice Chair at Summa Strategies. Welcome back, Kate. Great to hear from you today.
Hey, Rob. Good to hear from you.
Jordan Paquet, Senior Consultant, Bluesky Strategies. Welcome back, Jordan Paquet.
Thanks so much, Rob. Hi, Kate. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Jordan.
Right, our pleasure. Our pleasure. Okay, let's jump into things here. Given the current state of affairs in Canadian politics with the Trump tariff threat and a new Liberal leader on the horizon, how do you think, Kate, the Conservative team is feeling right now? Do you think they're confident? Do you think they're nervous? Do you think they're freaking out? Do you think they're curled up under the bed in the fetal position? What do you think?
Well, I don't think it's the latter. Listen, the context of what we're dealing with, the political environment we're operating in, has definitely changed since January 20th. That goes without saying. You've got Trudeau's resignation. You've got the threat of tariffs. You have a Liberal leadership race underway. You've still got cost of living and affordability issues. But things look different now than they did in December or November. And so that forces any party to really have a hard look at their strategy and their message and figure out what might need to be augmented in order to meet the moment. I think for the Conservatives, Rob, you don't get to a 40-plus point lead in the polls, or a 40, support from 40% of Canadians or more, with a message that hasn't been resonating. And so I would be very reluctant if I were working in Mr. Poilievre's office to shift gears too dramatically, because at the end of the day, people still have bills to pay. The cost of groceries and gas is still a concern. And I think that while you can certainly talk about the moment that we're in and the solutions that might be needed, it would be a mistake to abandon some of the key messages and policies that have brought Conservative success to this point. So I think, I'm sure we'll talk about the rally, we'll talk about the weekend and where things sit, but I think that leaning in and turning up the volume on some of that economic offering for Canadians is really key right now.
Okay. What would you say, Jordan? Confident, nervous, freaking out? What do you think is the mood right now on the Conservative side of things?
So, yes, I agree with Kate that, look, when things have drastically changed since January 20th, as far as what's eating up all the oxygen out in public, but also agree that doesn't mean that overall the messaging has to change. I mean, if you look at that rally on Saturday, you saw a very united, emboldened party putting forward some very bold policy ideas and actually sort of spelling them out much more so than perhaps the opponents are doing. So it gives everybody some things to go out and look at with that. As far as some of the polls are going, it gives some Liberals perhaps the opportunity to brag over having a beer with the buddies at the bar with Conservatives and say, like, oh, look, we're doing so much better now. But Mark Carney hasn't been really tested yet. He's in perhaps what could be described as a bit of a honeymoon phase. He's new to the scene. He hasn't really been out there in front of the cameras yet. So, of course, that's going to take some undecided numbers perhaps and start going to him, allowing Canadians to look at him. But it's not like the Conservatives have been tanking in the polls. We've just seen the Liberal numbers slightly improve. So with that in mind, I think once we actually dig into this, once he starts getting pressed, we've seen just in the National Post today that even his own team's admitting they need to sharpen the message a bit because he's saying one thing in two different languages. Things will start to come back to earth for them quite quickly.
Okay, well, let's pick up on what Kate said, and that the Conservative Party need not shift dramatically their messaging. Kate, do you think they have dramatically shifted their messaging, or are they adding to an already, say, well-established narrative? What would you say?
I think it's the latter. I think that they're leaning into the bring it home frame, which again was established over a year ago, Rob, in terms of the importance of economic resiliency, domestic manufacturing, basically making sure Canada can be self-sufficient and stand on our own 2 feet. And what the last month has brought to the fore is how weak we really are. I think for the Conservatives, they've been talking about a lot of the problems for some time. They've been talking at a high level about the solutions that need to be in place in order to put Canada on a different path. What we saw on the weekend was a lot more substantive discussion about how Canada would look under Conservative leadership and what would be different for Canadians on core issues like the economy, like on immigration, like on energy policy. So I would expect to hear a lot more from that in the weeks ahead as a sword issue for the Conservatives. So if you want real change and a different approach to the problems that you've been having for 9 years, you're going to need to vote for change. And here's the change that we would bring to the fore. So I see that as their sword. And I think the Trump piece, which, I'm sure we could have a debate about how much or little that's influencing public opinion right now. I think it is for a certain demographic. But I would treat that more as a shield issue. I don't think we need to go all in on and pearl clutch over whatever the White House is coming at Canada with on any given day. I think that's going to get tiresome very quickly. It's not a good recipe for how the country.
Plus, I don't think there's a lot of daylight among any of the parties on how they would approach that or how they view that. And even in the Angus Reid survey that came out yesterday, that's the bronze medal issue. It's not the top issue. Cost of living remains the top issue.
Right.
Followed by healthcare.
Yeah, and I think
according to that one poll. So
We see that too in the Abacus polling that I've seen. Cost of living is a major concern, and this is a generational piece. If you are a boomer who has done well, you have a lot of time to be concerned about Donald Trump. And if you are a young person who can't afford a home, who can't get a decent paying job, and who is concerned and anxious about economic viability in Canada, you're more likely to vote Conservative. So I see this is going to be an interesting pivot for the Liberals. They talk about generational fairness. They've been relying on that young voter constituency for a decade. Things have changed. So will we have more of a boomer appeal in Mark Carney?
And just building, Jordan, on what Kate had to say, I mean, some are calling it the great pivot, the Poilievre pivot. Do you see his message on Canada First as a major pivot or building on an already existing narrative? What do you see there?
The Conservatives have been talking about since basically the first Trump administration. I can remember back when Ron Ambrose was the interim leader and we were putting questions to the government about what are you going to do to stop Donald Trump from taking our jobs? How are you going to build a more resilient Canada and a more resilient economy here? And then after 9 years, we've seen nothing but increased regulation, making it unviable for certain projects to go forward, i.e. an East-West pipeline. Non-competitive taxation policies driving investment into the country. And now what you're seeing the Liberals doing is trying to retreat from some of those ideas and getting caught up in some of that mixed messaging as we've seen recently with Carney. So what I think now that the Conservatives are doing and what Pierre Poilievre was doing on Saturday was putting much more framing these ideas more in more in-depth ways that Canadians can understand as they get towards releasing a more full platform come election time. So yeah, absolutely. I think this has just been building on a narrative that Conservatives have been creating for the last number of years. Okay,
let's talk a little bit more about the public opinion research, the polls. Some, not all, but some say Conservative support is slipping, Liberal support is climbing, and some still suggest NDP support is just bottoming out. It's collapsing. What do you make of what you're getting from the polls these days, Jordan?
Yeah, I mean, let's take the NDP for example. I mean, they went from a position last spring to this fall where they could have defeated the government in a non-confidence vote and gone to an election and perhaps even been competitive to be the official opposition. Now they're in a position where they're going to be fighting to maintain potentially party status. I mean, at the very least, Jagmeet Singh is looking like he might lose his own seat. So I think they're probably looking back in the last number of months with a lot of regret right now. They're becoming increasingly irrelevant. And as I was mentioning before, with everybody else, it's just going to it's a horse race for sure. Any election is. Elections always move polls around. But that's why the Conservatives haven't even unleashed their advertising juggernaut yet with all the money that they have in the bank. So once we kind of get through the later stages of this leadership race, I would watch for some of that to start happening, and then we'll get a better sense of where things actually are at.
I mean, there are two interesting stories, I guess, from the polls. One is the renewed momentum of the Liberals, certainly, but the other is the NDP story. What do you think, Kate, of that of the NDP in particular, which would appear to be leaking like a sieve to the Liberals?
It is remarkable, Rob, that when we are speaking about economic sovereignty, good paying jobs in Canada, making sure that we can sustain ourselves, that the NDP are absent from this conversation. Like at a time when tariffs are on the table and jobs are at risk, for the party that is ostensibly supposed to be the voice of labor and of workers to be losing public support this fast, to me speaks to how that party has shifted away from its core principles and been more focused on the woke social agenda as opposed to the constituency that actually consistently has brought them, has elected them time and again. So to me, that is a real story. Conservatives and the Liberals are now seemingly jockeying for that support in terms of protection of workers and Canadian jobs, when really that should be the NDP's bailiwick. I think what's clear to me Singh thought he could take his shot at the end of March, have his moment to create the contrast with the Liberals after, voting for them 8 times to keep them in power in the fall. He's not going to it seems very unlikely that he's not going to have that opportunity. So he has spent 5 years not differentiating himself from Justin Trudeau. He put all of his eggs in the basket to do so and telegraphed that to his opponent. And smartly, the Liberals are not going to give him the chance. They will be the one to end that relationship first, I think. And so that leaves the NDP pretty homeless in this situation without a real constituency there to back them up.
Jordan, why do you think Mark Carney's campaign for the Liberal leadership has been a success so far, while Chrystia Freeland's campaign seems doomed? Why do you think that is?
Well, Miss Freeland has a track record of 9 years in that she has to defend and run from. And I mean, she was the one that was holding the knife on Trudeau. I mean, she was a kamikaze pilot that kind of destroyed everything back in the fall, caused Trudeau to resign. So a lot of Trudeau loyalists, caucus members, cabinet ministers don't like kind of how that came about. And so we're definitely holding a grudge for that, and have sort of pivoted to supporting Carney. The other thing that when people start to see, okay, he's polling better, he's raising more money, he's definitely running ahead. They want, like, caucus members, they want senior cabinet jobs, they want ambassador jobs, so they're naturally going to try and back the front runner, and that just seems to be what people have rallied behind. Chrystia Freeland has never been, a very effective communicator, in my opinion. I always thought she was quite overrated in some of those parts. I think some Liberals definitely agree with me. But now that we're coming into the final stretch here, we got some debates coming up next week. We'll see how that changes things. With Freeland, I don't know. I mean, she could be swinging for the fences on some of this stuff to really challenge Carney. He hasn't been challenged so far, really, on much of that stuff. So we'll see what happens with that. It won't change the outcome of the race. It will just change where things are at after, and potentially give the opposition party some more ammunition leading into the campaign.
I mean, I just think about some of the conversations, Kate, that we were having in the immediate aftermath of the Freeland statement and, everything that led up to the Trudeau resignation, and, Freeland, she was the one with all the momentum, and the unofficial leadership race is underway now. And she has to be considered, the front runner first out of the gate, and, going to the Liberal Christmas party and being feted like some kind of Liberal hero.
Yeah.
And gosh, she could finish third. She could finish third in this race. What do you think it is that Mark Carney has really seized the day and Freeland has not?
Well, I think Jordan spoke to some of Freeland's weaknesses that predate that flamethrower letter that she delivered on the eve of the fall economic statement. I think there was an error made by her as well to not almost immediately start campaigning for Trudeau's job and declaring herself as the next leader. Carney beat her to the punch, right? Like, Carney was able to get out there and socialize his candidacy before Chrystia Freeland was. I wonder if she had some first mover advantage, if cabinet or some of her colleagues might have committed to her campaign before Carney got in. But to me, Rob, this speaks to how baked into the establishment Mark Carney truly is. He has the vast majority of cabinet support. He's got big donors with deep pockets that are financing his campaign, and by his own admission, he's running in circles where people have that kind of cash that they can give to his campaign. So money talks. I think it's going to make a difference in this campaign. But it's difficult for him to make the case that he's a change and a new voice and a new face when he's got so much establishment baggage around him, from his cabinet supporters to the establishment money. I think the story to watch is where Karina Gould's campaign goes. She had a surprisingly good donation figure yesterday. And I think that she could be a real challenge again on this generational question. If Mark Carney is catnip for boomers, what about the millennials that are struggling right now and the younger generations? I think Karina Gould could be a home for that message and signing up more young people to the movement, whereas Carney is relying on the furniture that's already there.
Okay. Really interesting discussion today. That's our time. I thank you so much. We'll speak soon.
Thanks both. Take care now.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Kate.
Yeah.
Take care.
Bye, Jordan. Jordan Paquet is a senior consultant at Bluesky Strategies, and Kate Harrison is vice chair at Summa Strategies. Coming up, it's Talkback. Right after the news, a brand new topic, your opinions and your phone calls. Please join the discussion. 2 hours. Call in radio. Looking forward to it today. Should be a good one. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talkback. 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. Today's topic is a slogan. Canada is broken. Canada is broken. When you hear that, Canada is broken. When you hear that from politicians like Pierre Poilievre, for example, the leader of the Conservative Party, Canada is broken. What do you think? What is your reaction when you hear that line, when you hear that slogan, Canada is broken? 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. I mean, do you think, yeah, I agree, Canada is broken? And here are all the ways that it's broken. And maybe you have a list of examples. If you do, feel free to share some. Or when you hear that slogan, Canada is broken, do you think, no, it's not? No, it's not. Canada isn't broken. The country might have some problems, but Canada is still a great country with lots of positives. Lots of good things going for it, and Canada is most certainly not broken. Just where do you come down on this? I'd love to know at 1-833-668-2577. We wanted to jump back into this debate today because it's a debate that's happening in some parts of the country, certainly in our politics. There are a lot of politicians these days, they're wrapping themselves in the flag, encouraging Canadians have pride in the country. Fly a Canadian flag, buy Canadian products, travel within Canada, discover or rediscover Canada, and of course, cheer for Team Canada at tomorrow night's hockey game against the Americans. And some are saying you can't, on the one hand, encourage this sense of Canadian pride, Canadian patriotism, and at the same time say Canada is broken. Does not compute. One of the politicians making that claim is Justin Trudeau cabinet minister, the immigration minister, Mark Miller. Mark Miller showed up outside the downtown Ottawa Convention Centre on Saturday where the Conservatives were holding their Canada First rally. And according to him, you can't say Canada is broken and then say Canada is the best country in the world. The two don't go together. Let's listen to what Mark Miller said.
You can't say that Canada is broken and at the same time say that Canada is the best country in the world.
Let's play that one more time, David.
You can't say that Canada is broken and at the same time say that Canada is the best country in the world.
Now, some would disagree with that and would make the case you can say Canada is broken, and let me count the ways, and also say, but Canada's a great country, maybe even the best country in the world, and all it needs is a new government that could start to fix some of the things that are broken, and that the two are not mutually exclusive. Canada can be broken and Canada can be a great country at the same time. How do you see it? How do you view it? When you hear this line, you hear this slogan, Canada is broken. What is your gut reaction to that? The Liberal Party right now is actually using this line, Canada is broken, in an attack ad against Pierre Poilievre. And the theme is basically, you can't trust this guy to run the country. Does he really care about the country? Does he really have pride in the country? Listen to how he talks about Canada. Roll the tape, David.
Canada is broken. Canada is broken. It's not the Americans' fault. It's our fault. We're stupid.
Everything in Canada is broken. Canada is broken. Everything is broken in Canada. Everything is broken. Everything is broken. Everything is broken. Everything is broken. Everything is broken.
I think Canada would be much better off being a 51st state.
And the big bold font says Pierre Poilievre. Wrong choice, wrong time. Because he says Canada is broken. And he said it over and over and over again. Just listen to the guy. Now, it's been about a year since Pierre Poilievre released his own video. I wouldn't call it an attack ad per se. And it didn't say Canada is broken. It used the line, though, everything feels broken. And it's the video Pierre Poilievre sitting at a table with a child and they're putting together a jigsaw puzzle. Maybe you've seen this one. Let's listen to this.
Everything feels broken in Canada. Unaffordable, unsafe, divided. But we can put the pieces back together. With a government that lives within its means, leaves more in your pocket, and lets you get ahead. That protects our streets and unites our people. In the Canada we know and love. Let's bring it home.
So we want to take this out for a test drive today and kick it around for a couple of hours. What do you think? What is your gut reaction when you hear the line, Canada is broken? What goes through your mind? How does it make you feel? And as well, do you think it's possible to think Canada is broken and still have pride in Canada? Or is it impossible for those two things to go together? Give that some thought and give us a call. Up first today in Cambridge, Max, you're on the air. Hi, Max.
Yes, this is Max, first-time caller.
I appreciate that, Max.
Okay. You know, I've been living in Canada for 50 years. I've been working for 48 years. And Canada is one of the great, and I travel a lot around the world. Canada is one of the greatest countries. Still up in the top 5, I would say. It's not broken. The people that said it's broken is the politician that said it's broken. Because we have to fix the problem from the root cause. And the root cause is the politician. You know, you see that commercial with Pierre Poilievre about his pension, right? And they
Jagmeet Singh's pension, maybe. Yeah, okay.
No, both of them pension. Each politician there and each member of parliament is making, they get a salary, maybe $250,000, and they get everything paid and a pension. The ordinary working people, they're lucky if they get $1,800 a year as a pension when they retire, working sometime 50 years in this country, or still cannot stop working. I am 67 and still working because my pension cannot be. Because politicians, the Governor General, they get $200,000 a year for the rest of their life until they die. Whether you're there for 6 months or 2 years.
Okay, so let me ask you this then. When you hear this, Canada is broken, what do you think?
It's not broken. We got to fix the problem, and we now going to elect the right guy to fix the problem, Mark Carney. This is a calm, cool, and collective person who knows what he's doing and have the right idea.
All right. Thank you, Max. We're off and running here, Max. Okay, we got jam-packed phone lines, so we're going to move along. I got you. Some good points there. Jody is in Calgary. Jody, what do you think? How do you react when you hear this slogan, Canada is broken?
Excuse me. Yes, Canada is broken. Canada is not the same. Canada is not the same country that I grew up in, and Justin Trudeau, in my opinion, has broken Canada in the last, we'll say, almost 10 years with mass immigration, with his woke policies, and with just like making Canada an embarrassment on the world stage. So I think Canada is broken. I mean, if you walk around the streets of Calgary and see all the homeless people compared to like 10 years ago, it's pathetic. And and I am a proud Canadian. And I would say one more thing, Mark Miller, and excuse my language, Mark Miller is a tool. And
that's fine.
And one more thing I want to ask you, I don't understand why people are getting on the bandwagon for Mark Carney. Mark Carney is a Trudeau, is Trudeau's buddy. Like he's.
Well,
actually
there'll be
part of
there'll be an election, and we can talk about that. But you think then, first of all, you think Canada is broken and Justin Trudeau broke it. Fair enough. So
yes,
you have no problem with that. But you think it's still possible to have pride in Canada, even if you think the country is broken. Is that what you're saying?
Oh yes, definitely.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm a proud Canadian, and I like if I'm out and about and I meet like a person from another country, like I make sure that I tell them how great this country is. But I'm very embarrassed of the leadership that we've had in the last 10 years. Like I said, Trudeau's made this country like an embarrassment on the world stage with all his antics and everything. Like he's just he's an idiot. And I hope and pray that we get a better leader in like the next election. I really do.
All right. Well, we'll see. It might be in an election soon enough. Jody, thank you for your call. Jay up next in Kitchener. Hi, Jay.
I just want to thank you for giving us the freedom of this program to express our issues.
Okay. Thank you.
And I also just want to let you know, I just want to say how proud I am because I'm having people to come to help me with voting for the February 27th election. They're coming
election,
yes, they're coming actually on Thursday afternoon. And I'm visually impaired as well as in a wheelchair. And I'm very thankful that people are recognizing my right to vote by helping me do so.
Well, that's good, Jay. Now, to the question of the day, when you hear this slogan, Canada is broken, how does that make you feel?
Sir, just I just have hope for the future. Hopefully we can provide enough tape to fix the issues to the best of our ability and just hope for good things for the future.
All right. You're a very optimistic person, Jay. Thank you. Let's go to Frank. Is in Calgary up next. Frank. Hello, Frank.
Hi. How are you doing?
I'm good, Frank. When you hear this slogan, Canada is broken, what's your reaction to that?
Well, Canada is broken. I agree with that. But unlike what Miller says, Canada is great because it has a potential to be great and to fix these problems. Whatever is broken can be fixed. It will be painful. It will, it won't be easy what Trudeau brought onto this country in the past 9 years. But at the same time, it can be fixed. Therefore, yes, Canada is a great country. I'm a first-generation immigrant, and when I look at back the option for me, whether to be in the States or whether to be in the Canada, even today, I'm still happily and proudly say that I'm glad I'm in Canada, but Canada is broken. It has a potential to be great. So, yes.
Right. So you think it's broken. Okay and it's not, I don't know, contradictory, I guess, to say Canada is broken and still be proud of the country. You see nothing wrong with those two things.
100%, because
100%. All right.
We can fix our problems. They are not something unfixable, but I mean, we have a great potential. Even in the long run, we have lots of unexplored land. Things are changing. We have the most important thing is we have the great water resources. So, it is not only one house price going up from 400 to 600. Yes, these are all problems. I am experiencing them too. I'm as a first generation immigrant in this country, all of that, I'm not denying it. It's just we have the potential to fix it, and I think we will fix it.
All right. Thank you, Frank, for your call today. All the best to you. Andre in Calgary, you're up next, Andre. Thank you for calling, Andre. You're on the air.
Oh, you're welcome. Hi.
Hi, Andre.
Hello. So you want to know what I think when I hear this broken business? Well, I personally, right away, it puts me thinking about the Freedom Truckers. Or you want to, I call them Tucker Carlson's far-right movement. And I love this country, and I don't see what the heck they were doing. This is a free country. I don't understand why they were whining so much. except for continuing on with this Trump narrative about the far left of dividing this country even more. I mean, I love.
Well,
this
they didn't
country
think it was a free country because they were being forced to take a vaccine they didn't feel they wanted to take. I think they didn't think it was a free country.
Right, but they made it sound that way, that they were so unprivileged, I love this country, and I want to put a flag, but I don't want to be mistaken for these people. You know what I'm saying? I have a flag at home. I want to put it on my house to the Americans thinking of us as the 51st state. I really want to fight that. And
but you won't even put up a flag.
Pardon me?
You won't even put up a flag?
I want to put up my Canadian flag outside my house to show my pride in Canada. Yeah. But at the same time, I don't want to be mistaken for those guys who were doing that trucking freedom fighting movement. Because they're so far.
I think you'd be more mistaken for one of the Freedom Convoy participants if you had an F. Trudeau flag, sir. Honest to goodness, than a Canadian flag. Let's be honest here. I think you're overthinking it here, right?
Yeah, maybe.
But this idea. Okay, you hear the slogan, Canada is broken. It's a turnoff for you. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it is, because, I mean, for a lot of people, it's so far right to me that people are going to vote that way only because they only care about their party winning. They don't care about the party agenda or the foreign policies. They don't care about anything like that. It's just my team needs to win versus your team. And it's really...
And do you think it's only one side that believes that? Like, say, the conservative side is only interested in winning?
Well,
or do you think the Liberals... you don't think the Liberals are interested in winning, sir?
Yes, I do. But there seems to be more people on the far right that doesn't care about policy. They only care about who wins. They have no idea about foreign policies or true agendas that's out on the table. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. I ask you for your opinion. I don't disagree with, I don't agree with everything that you're saying, but, that's common around here. That's why we do Talkback. We want to hear opinions from all sides. And you hear Canada is broken and you think sloganeering, far right, freedom convoy, all well and good. And maybe it's even soured you on wanting to fly a Canadian flag. I would, if I was you, I'd put up that Canadian flag. I wouldn't worry about that, sir. Okay, we'll be right back right after the news. It's Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
What do you think? How do you react when you hear the slogan, Canada is broken? And do you think it's possible to think that Canada is broken and still have pride in the country? Some people don't think so. Like Mark Miller, for example, who crashed the Conservative rally. He was outside the Conservative Party's Canada First rally on Saturday and said, you can't be saying Canada is broken and then say Canada's the best country in the world. Those two do not fit together. This is what Mark Miller said Saturday morning here in the nation's capital.
You can't say that Canada is broken and at the same time say that Canada is the best country in the world.
Okay, what would you say to that? Let's go to Steve, is in Nova Scotia. Hello, Steve.
Hello, how you doing, Rob?
I'm good, Steve. Thanks for calling. Canada is broken. When you hear that, what do you think?
Well, I think you can have two things be the same. In other words, you can have a great country and it can fall and falter, but it still has a lot of potential. So it can be great, but you have to make an honest assessment and realize that it is broken. And we have to fix X, Y, and Z, and then we'll be great again, so to speak.
Okay. So you think it's possible to say Canada is broken and still be proud of Canada? Then still be a patriot, for example. You do.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Do you think Canada is broken? Or parts of Canada are broken?
Yes, I do. I actually do. I think it's very demoralized and divided, and I think Trudeau and all his minions, they all pretty much played a role because they all think the same. They have certain ideologies about different things. I didn't agree with the woke movement at all. I know that this push towards, because of the fear of climate change, it's one thing to make a transition and work with what's feasible, but it has to be something that's feasible. I mean, there's no wind or solar that's ever going to replace oil right now. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen 10 years from now. It's not going to happen. It's going to require a lot more technology, and when it does, that's fine. We transition, or transition even now, but much more gradual. Right now, there's hundreds of windmills that have been instituted and solar, and these have all died. They have only a 20-year lifespan, and there's hundreds of fields of solar in Texas, huge fields that these things are all dead. There's nothing to do with them. They can't recycle them. I mean, there's a point where
maybe there will be someday when, as you say, the technology advances to such a state that can provide reliable, affordable electricity for everyone. But the way things stand right now, it's largely intermittent and needs fossil fuel as a backup, just in case, right? Just in case it's dark or not windy, or too windy, or whatever the case might be. Yeah. No, that was a big thing in Ontario, the push for green energy as well. Okay, but you think, you can believe that certain things in Canada are not working or the country is broken and still have pride in the country.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love this country. I was born here.
Steve. Gotcha, Steve.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, hearing that sentiment from people who are born here and people who are first-generation immigrants. They've called already today as well. And Hickey has called, and he's up next. Hickey, what do you think when you hear the slogan, Canada is broken? What do you think?
I think if we look at how many people are outside the food banks, I think if we look at where essentially our economy's at, what's happened in Canada, yes, we're broken. But I also remember a saying that I learned a long time ago, and it was a leadership saying, and it said, a true leader is not the one at the front of the pack trudging through the forest. It's the one who's willing to climb the tree and say, we're on the wrong path. And I think when Pierre is out there saying Canada is broken, it's because we are broken. We're divided. There's so many people, Trump wouldn't be trying to do what he's doing if this was 2012 or 2013 and we're all flying our flags and we're all working together and all the provinces were working together and we were one of the top G7 countries that we used to be. We are broken, which is why he thinks he can take us over now.
Okay. Do you think it's possible to say Canada is broken and still be proud of Canada?
Of course, at least we're acknowledging Canada is broken. At least we're acknowledging that there's, we know what we have to do to fix it. And we know that we have to, I think that's why even Carney's, people are looking at Carney going, okay, it's a change. It's something new, right? We need a change in the government. We need a change in the prime minister first, and then we need a vote for the government, and then we need all the provinces to work together. I mean, it's great to see them all working together. It's just unfortunate that it took, Trump down south saying that we're going to become the 51st state to do it. But you know what? The best part is that he's coming at us, and at least we're all coming together, and all the provinces are coming together. And I just hope that we start working together the way that we should, and taking care of Canada and taking pride in Canada like we used to.
Okay, Hickey, thank you for your call. Dan in Calgary up next. Hi, Dan. What's your opinion, Dan, on Canada is broken? When you hear that, what do you think, Dan?
Hey, Rob. Thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I would say that saying Canada is broken is an exaggeration.
Exaggeration. Okay.
Things are broken, but as a whole, I wouldn't say Canada is broken. I'm a proud Canadian, and I think that we have to do a lot of things to fix the issues systematically, of course, not just a broad stroke. But I would say that as a whole, we are not, as a country, we are not broken.
When people say Canada is broken, do you think it's possible to think Canada is broken and still be proud of Canada?
I think that, like thinking of World War II as an example, we weren't yet a country on its own. We were still trying to set ourselves on the world stage. I think to get back to what we did after World War II is something we should strive to. I think that we've essentially rested on our laurels, if you will. Since then, we've come down in our abilities, if you will, since then as well. And I think we've just been quite lazy. And I think what happened in the South was a wake-up call, where it's unfortunate how it's happened, but it's a wake-up call to say that we have to get back to that status again, that we are the country, the proud and free. And I think we can do it. I would say that absolutely a government change is in order. It's unfortunate this is happening now because I would like a strong government in place who could challenge the U.S. Is that Carney? Is it Poilievre? I can't say right now. I could say that it wasn't Trudeau, so I'm glad that's happened. But I think that is something we as a country together can do. We just have to come together and do it.
Okay, thank you. Good to hear from you, Dan. To Marty up next. Marty is on the air. How do you react when you hear the slogan, Canada is broken? What do you think when you hear that, Marty?
Oh, yeah, very dynamically. I'm all over the place on it. And I really kind of go to other places, and I don't even think of that question. First, I would just like to second the notion of the caller that called in about the far right flying the flag and doesn't want to fly the flag because it's taken on a different meaning. I want to second that. And that really? I feel exactly the same way. Absolutely. I have felt the same way every time I see somebody flying that flag. I go, there's a right-wing extremist. And I just want to say that. But that's not why I called. And
I have a flag in my yard here on a flagpole I've been flying 365 days a year for the better part of 5 years ever since I moved into this house. Does that make me a far-right extremist, sir? That I'm
No, not at all. But
Canadian flag?
But it's the symbol that has taken to people flying the flag. That's what's happened. That's what that time in history.
All right, that's how you feel.
Yeah, and that's how I feel. And I don't think I'm alone. Yes, you can say Canada is broken and still be the best country in the world. I just wanted to say that. Now, I would like to ask, have we ever stood, alone, not alone.
Okay.
My entire life, I've witnessed our dependence of the United States and China for almost everything that we have, and need for our basic sustenance. So, for Canada to be a viable country, why is it we do not, establish industries and create our own basic needs ourselves? For example, like during COVID, we had to look for China to get the COVID-19 masks for everybody. We were so dependent on that. It was huge. Anyway, so I just wanted to say a couple things, but
Sure thing. Yeah. No, and I appreciate your phone call. I mean, we're not going to agree on everything. That's one of the reasons that we do this. But you would like to see more economic resilience in this country, the growth of more domestic industries in this country. Yes?
There's enough
so we're not as vulnerable to international shocks, and the latest one being what's happening just south of us in the United States. Fair enough, Marty. Thank you for your call. Appreciate it. Peter in Langley, British Columbia. Peter, what do you think when you hear the slogan "Canada is broken"?
I'm quite satisfied. And for me, I say, finally, thank God that people are starting to recognize that Canada is broken. And can someone like me say that we're broken and still be proud? I don't think so. And because when I take a look at the last 10 years of Trudeau running us into the ground, how can I be proud of all the things that whatever his government has accomplished, I don't know. But he's done everything possible to break this country. Things like when Europe is coming over and they want to buy our resource and he's got to stand on, the throne and no, we're not doing fossil fuels and all this kind of thing. And meanwhile, the Americans are building LNG plants, like crazy, and now Europe is dependent on American LNG. So I don't feel particularly proud at all, when I take a look at what Trudeau and the federal government, the bureaucrats, what have you, what they've been doing the last 10 years. I'm not proud of the way the premiers are acting right now. They can't even get together and solve these interprovincial barriers. They should have come out by now. Okay, so the lack of defense spending that's happened for
it's a chronic
generations. And I'll tell you, there's one thing that's particularly telling is I have on a regular basis we have international people from Asia, foreigners from Asia that come over here, as guests and what have you. And the one thing they pretty much all comment on is they look around and say, well, what's made in Canada? Because they go to Costco, they go to, the stores around here, and everything is made in the USA or China. But, you look at all the fast food places, they're all American. The franchise restaurants are all American. Everything is American. And Canadians have been pacified over the last several generations. So, while I'm willing to stand on the
Yeah, we got to run. Thank you, though. Thank you. Okay. I appreciate your time. Appreciate your call. Let's go to Emerson in Calgary and ask him what he thinks when he hears the line "Canada is broken." What do you think when you hear that, Emerson?
I say and so is every other country, because you're not going to please, no matter who the prime minister is, you're not going to please everybody. You're dealing with different walks of life, various ethnic groups. The best thing any prime minister can do is just try to manage with the resources that he has. You're not going to satisfy everybody. I'm 64 years old. I've been hearing since I was a kid, Canada's broken. Well, it's broken because if it doesn't meet your needs, it's broken. But when it meets your needs, great country. So, as I said before, I'm so happy I'm a Canadian. I was born in this country. I wouldn't move anywhere. It doesn't matter what people offered me. But people have to be reasonable. People have these expectations. They put so much pressure on the government that when the government fails, they say Canada's broken. Yes, we're hearing it from politicians now because it's a great platform and elections coming up. The people are going to buy into it, and there will be the ones that don't. But the majority of people are saying, maybe somebody's going to make it perfect. I don't care what country you go to. I don't care where you work, who you marry. It'll never be perfect. It could be reasonable, but it will never be perfect. And if anyone tells you it's going to be perfect, all the Band-Aids are going to come out and stop the bleeding, I don't think I'd fall for that. I'd have more respect for someone that says, listen, I can't promise you a perfect country, but I can promise you one that's reasonable. And that's all I expect from any leader. I mean, just being truthful, what's going on in the rest of the world, it's a mess. The world is broken, never mind Canada. But at the end of the day, nothing's going to be fixed by people protesting, waving flags, yelling, screaming, demonstrating. All that's going to do is elevate the problem. And let's take a deep breath. I mean, everyone I talk to, even today, they're like, I can't wait for this election. I hope Poilievre wins big. And I don't know what I'll do if the Liberals win. Maybe I'll leave. Like, ridiculous. I don't care who wins. I'm not going anywhere. I love this country. And before I go, Rob, I'd like to say, I hope whoever becomes the next Prime Minister of Canada finds a little spot for you as a communication minister in his cabinet. You're super smart. Okay. We need people like you. God bless you, and thank you for your show.
God bless you, Emerson. God bless you, Emerson. Thank you. You always have a kind word to say. I love taking your calls. Charlie in Grey Highlands up first in hour number 2. Hi, Charlie.
How you doing, Rob?
I'm good, Charlie.
Canada is broken, but it's repairable. Okay, I got a few things I just want to rhyme off here. Alberta, talking about leaving. Our deficit, $52 billion. Quebec, talking about a referendum in 3 or 4 years. Our dollar, 69 cents. Our housing, not affordable for working class. Part of our population is homeless. Food, unaffordable for the working class. Not very much for our young people to look forward to. No management in the last 9 years. When we had Stephen Harper and Jim Flaherty, we never had much of this, really, I'm telling you. Now, Rob, the last guy you talked to on there was right on about you getting a job with the government or whatever. Just keep your show going like this. It's great to listen to. It's helping people get through some hard times.
Well, I thank you, Charlie. Thank you. I have a job, and I enjoy it very much. And part of that is getting to speak to you every day, Charlie. Thank you.
Well, you're doing a great job, Rob. And
I appreciate
people
that,
are sitting back, and we're talking about your show. We're getting together and talking about things that should be done or could be done.
Okay. Very kind, as always, Charlie. Good to hear from you today. To Kitchener, Chris is up next on Talkback. How do you react, Chris, when you hear the slogan, Canada is broken?
Well, first time I've called you, so great to hear and talk and give my opinion.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
No problem.
Great to have you.
I think the slogan should be Canada is broke, not broken. I mean, that's what I think. You have the oil not being pumped out. We have so many natural resources in Canada that have been shut down by our prime minister. Natural gas. We have no gas lines going coast to coast. And then the caller before said we have, like a $55 billion debt or something. I mean, we're broke unless we start doing that stuff. Now, saying that, I'm still proud to be a Canadian. I'm just not proud of Canada where it sits right now, if that makes sense.
Sure. You're proud of Canada. You think it's going through some rough times, but perhaps nothing a new government can't fix with maybe a new direction,
and I'm not
new policies, different policies. Right.
Yeah,
right,
I'm not proud of Canada. I'm proud to be a Canadian.
Okay.
But the country needs fixing for me to be really proud of it again.
All right, Chris. Fair enough. Thank you for your call. Another call from great talking to you. Another call from Kitchener. Ernie, you're on the line. Ernie, hi there.
Hey, Rob.
Hi, Ernie.
I don't know, like your question there, it almost sucks to answer it as a Canadian, to be honest. But just looking at some of the facts, like our crime increase has skyrocketed here, our catch and release system. We have the opioid crisis here in Canada that has totally increased over the last 10 years. We're laughing stock on the world stage. Groceries skyrocketed. We have protests where they burn Canadian flags and block roads. And look at our leader of the country. He can't even make a public appearance without there's going to be a bunch of protests there and a lot of people screaming at the leader of our country. Our deficit's $52 billion. Canadian dollars, monopoly money at this point. Rob, it's really, those are just some of the things that are going on in this country. It's really hard for me to say that it's not.
Okay. But are you still proud of the country?
I'm not proud of this country, but I'm proud to be Canadian, Rob. I am. And it's
okay. What's the
difference?
Like
when I was hearing you and you said all these things that are going on. And the reason I'm still proud to be Canadian, because I have a lot of hope and I pray that this country can be fixed and be back to that point where the opioid crisis is an issue anymore. Like, I shouldn't say it's not an issue. We always know it's going to be an issue, but it's limited. It's not the way it is now. That the young people have a hope that they can buy a house, that our kids, I have 3 young ones, and I'm just like, man, this is way different than even when I grew up here. And when my dad, when he came here years ago, and I asked him, why did you leave to come here? And he said, because this is where I knew there was opportunity. I feel most Canadians right now, we don't have that. And Rob, I want to have a belief in the system again in this country and our Canadian people here that we can make it back to where Canadians do have hope again. And the facts that I just said, these are facts. This is not just my belief. This is what's happening in our country, and that we can build that up.
All right, Ernie. Thank you. Thank you for your call. Thank you for getting us off to a good start, everyone. Go ahead, Gerald.
Yeah, very much. I think it's been broken quite a while already.
Okay. How so?
Yep. And sometimes you have to tear everything down to get something rebuilt again. And I think we're at that point, unfortunately.
Oh, really? Okay. Why do you say that? Why do you say that, Gerald?
Well, for one thing is when our middle class, and especially in the private sector, they're being treated very unfairly and being taken advantage of. They get most of the people in the private sector get no security, no nothing, and now they can't even depend on anything, good health care to keep them working, all that kind of stuff. It's very disheartening for people that are just want to be regular people, not professionals, and there's nowhere for them to go. When you take away housing, like where they can't own their own home, that is such a pride thing, and a very Canada thing, as far as I'm concerned.
Right. Okay.
Right, and it's just we're not. I was in housing for 35 years. I've seen the wages go up very slow, and the house prices go up very dramatically.
Yes.
And
yes.
I would not tell my kids to go in the trades.
Oh, okay. Why not?
Not in housing. In commercial, in industrial, yes. There's some security. You can get in with bigger companies. In housing, there's just no money in it for the common guy. If you're the business owner and say an electrician and he has 10 electricians underneath him, he'll do okay, but his 10 electricians underneath him, they won't have what I had.
Okay. Now
it's just not comparable.
So so you say you have felt for some time that Canada is broken, but are you still proud of Canada? Can you still have pride in Canada?
Very much. I haven't had a passport since 1972. I haven't left this country. I sled here. I ski here. I quad here. I fish here. I love this place. I was fortunate enough to buy a place where I really enjoy it. And so now being retired, I don't feel the need to go anywhere.
Okay. All right, Gerald. Look, great to hear from you from Lethbridge. Sorry I got your name wrong at the beginning there. Good call, though. I appreciate
no problem.
That's just autocorrect. We'll blame autocorrect for that. Okay. Sanj in Calgary. Hi, Sanj. You're up next. What's your opinion here on Canada is broken? When you hear that, what do you think?
Yeah. Hey, Rob. First-time caller.
Appreciate
Canada,
that.
Yeah, I would say it feels broken, but more dysfunctional than anything else.
Okay, dysfunctional.
9 years of it's 9 years of a kumbaya kind of prime minister, who basically doesn't understand the principles of finance and balancing a budget, and also changing the identity of Canada. Whereas, I left Canada in '99 to travel the world, came back in 2014 to raise a family, because I still felt after being around the world, Canada was by far the best country to raise a family, right? Do I feel that way now? I think my wife and I, we're quite comfortable, but I'm more concerned about the kids. And I think the principal point I want to make is Canada is a resource country, right? And if you've got a country like Norway, who has one of the most powerful sovereign wealth funds, who basically built that fund on oil and gas as well, there was already a blueprint for us to follow to make Canada a very wealthy country. And with being a wealthy country and you have money in your pocket, you're able to do things and pay for agendas. Like I believe in climate change. I mean, we're all experiencing it, but you need cash and money to do it. And what we've done is basically 9 years, the country's gone bankrupt because the person who ran the country ran it like, hey, my dad's going to pay for everything. And in this case, the taxpayers end up paying for everything. And if everyone understands that we're a resource country, we need to sell that, because that's our biggest leverage. Like Japan now has gone to Trump. I don't think Japan wanted to go to Trump to buy oil and gas. But when they came to Canada, they got a big no. Sorry, we're basically taking the moral high ground and going to rub it in your face, because we're too cool and we want to do climate change agenda. And even though we're broke, we have no money. So fundamentally, I think there needs to be a policy change. It's more of a policy change than anything else. And everyone needs to get their head around the fact that Canada is a resource country and we need to maximize our resources, because that's our greatest leverage.
All right. Very interesting, Sanj. Thank you. Matthew in Halifax. You're on the air, Matthew. Hi there. What's your opinion?
Hey, Rob.
Hi.
Hey, Rob. I really like the on hold music. Are you related to Mark Snow, the X-Files theme?
No, I am not related to Mark Snow, the writer of many TV theme songs. Actually, yeah, no, not me.
Oh yeah. It sounds very thoughtful. With regards to your question, there are no perfect countries. Every country is a work in progress. I don't think any leader is perfect. And because we are who we are, we can believe what we want to believe and cheer on any team that we want to, within reason. Our current prime minister isn't perfect, and previous prime ministers have also not run the show perfectly either.
Sure.
Yeah, Canada is broken. As a disability advocate, I cheer on certain policy movement, and I'm glad that Canada has moved in the direction towards diversity, equity, and accessibility. But it's not perfect, and anyone who has been sidelined or marginalized, I hope that they can get together with people that can raise their voice to help things get better. So anyone in leadership positions who has an opportunity to help make things better for everyone else besides themselves, I'm happy supporting them.
All right. Thank you so much for your call today, Matthew, in Halifax. Let's take Kim's call just before the news. Hi, Kim in Calgary. Go ahead, Kim. What do you think when you hear this slogan, Canada is broken?
Hi, Rob. It's my first time, so thank you very much.
Oh, I appreciate that, Kim. Thank you.
Sometimes, Rob, background helps, and I'm going to quickly say to all my fellow Canadian citizens, I was born in BC, worked in Ontario, and I've actually retired now in Calgary. And I wanted to let all my fellow Canadian citizens know that wherever I go and whoever I've met, what I hear the most, Rob, is that people are not broken. It's our politics. And what I hear from people, which is my neighborhood, my city, my province, my country, is that we just need to find a place where fiscally responsible, but at the same time, of course, having empathy that we have to solve the homeless crisis, but understand that we have to find a balance. And I have friends from all walks of life. They vote Conservative, Liberal, Green, NDP. That doesn't matter. What matters is that we all go to vote. And when everybody votes, then we make a difference. But when people sit at home and become like cynical, I'm not voting, the country's broken. Well, we do have issues, but I need everybody to get out and vote. Everybody to get out and vote.
Yeah. Okay. Great advice there. Thank you so much. We fit you in just before the news. So it was great to hear from you and have a first-time caller on the air. Right back to the phones. Tom in Cambridge up next. You're on the air, Tom. What do you think?
Rob. Well, I think, I'm 69. I'm going to be 69 this year. And I started really paying attention to certain things when I guess it was in my mid-20s. And to say we've been broken in a lot of ways. I wouldn't say we're fragmented. We have 10 provinces and 13 territories at times that we are their own separate countries. They do things a lot differently. Some will think that they're being mistreated. Some are being taken advantage of. And, we have done our own harm by not with the interprovincial trade, which should have been taken care of a long time ago. We have Canada. There's a lot of Canadian companies that have been bought out. Better Beef in Guelph, Ontario, is a Canadian American company now, which was a Canadian company. Molson's Breweries was a Canadian company. They've all been bought out by either overseas or by American companies. So we again.
Well, that was more of a merger of equals, I think, between Molson Coors. I think that was more of a merger of equals than anything else.
You have Labatt's is owned, I think, by Foster's Breweries. We've got Sleeman's, which is Japanese, but we got Canadians. We've a lot of Canadian businesses where they were swallowed up or bought out or moved other countries for cheaper labor. And that I'm just talking to my girlfriend. I think we look at, I guess. We've done a lot of politicians or governments have promised a lot of things, and we think as citizens and taxpayers that it means that it's all they're going to fix it. It can't. They're going to make promises that really, in intention, just get them elected. Sometimes they get in, and then once they find out that they can't really fulfill a lot of these promises and that, this is where the dissension comes in. So to politicize what we've been going on, we've had homeless people for 20 or 30 years to what we have now, to the extent we have, no. We've had people using food banks to what we got now, no.
Well,
and it only becomes political. It only becomes politicized when it becomes someone popularized. Right. And I'm saying that's wrong. And, I'm still a proud Canadian.
Well, if there are record numbers of homeless and there are a record number of Canadians using food banks to feed themselves, do you not think that should be a political discussion and a debate worth having in the legislatures of the country?
I think it's everybody's, not just the political. Okay. I think we should all be having this conversation as why and how has this happened. There's many reasons why people have gone homeless. There's many reasons why people are going to use food banks. Has the wages and inflation, have we kept up with inflation? No, we haven't. And I can remember the term of COLA, the cost of living allowance. And I can remember receiving my last cost of living allowance was in 1975 when I worked for a certain company. And that was it. Yeah. There was no more cost of living, right?
Yeah, I've never got a COLA payment in my lifetime, and I've been working since I was 15 years old, and I'm in my 50s now. But my dad speaks of them quite fondly when he was working for the phone company in Nova Scotia. They used to get those all the time back in the 70s.
And I'm saying the affordable housing. Who determines what market value is based on what?
Okay. Right.
So that's what I'm saying.
So when you hear this, Canada's broken, you think that's just become politicized? It's politicizing issues. Oh, okay. All right. Okay, Tom. Thank you. Jam-packed phone lines. Okay. Yeah. Bye-bye. Let's go to Fred. Is out in Calgary. Hi, Fred.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm fine, Fred. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Canada is broken, but I think it was broken by the politicians. Politicians, especially this present government that we have, and I don't trust Carney because of his shenanigans over in England. I'm going to tell you, we should have been working on this matter of provincial trade, and Trudeau's in so many ways has blocked it, and that's one example of where we're broken. We should have been working on doing something about the housing problem, but the problem is we've had so many, and I'm not complaining about immigration, but I'm saying it hasn't helped the problem in some ways. So we've broken ourselves. I think it can be fixed, but it's going to take an honest government to actually work on the problem, if there is such a thing. And that's my opinion.
Are you still proud of Canada? Are you still proud of Canada, Fred?
I'm proud to be Canadian, but I've also lived elsewhere.
Right.
And I've lived in the United States for 5 years. And I think it's unfortunate that it took Trump to actually say something to wake Canadians up. I'm going to be interested in hearing what's going to be happening at this hockey game coming up here, whether there's going to be booing of the Canadian national anthem in Boston.
Yeah, in Boston, yeah.
So, yeah.
I was actually thinking about doing the talkback about that hockey game tomorrow because there are so many... there are so many subplots to that whole hockey game,
Yeah, I don't think.
And I was only a baby. I was, 1 year old when it was Canada and the Soviets in the 72 series.
I was a little older. I'm slightly older than you.
So my father. That was the hockey series that defined a generation. And I just wonder, just given the backdrop now, if this is the same kind of thing, it's just like
and not interesting. And Paul Henderson with the big goal.
Paul Henderson.
Yeah, and I've seen him interviewed and actually been in a place where he spoke, so it was wonderful to hear him. But,
and the speech from Phil Esposito when they were getting booed, they got booed, and Phil Esposito making that speech, and thank you. Yeah, we could go down that rabbit hole, but I might say that for tomorrow. I think that's David. I may have settled on tomorrow's talkback. No, I think I am going to talk about that hockey game tomorrow. I predict huge ratings for the hockey game.
I still have that audio from the Summit series. I have all that audio saved, so we can work with that.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Excellent. Okay. How about Murray up next? Hi, Murray. You're on the air. What do you think when you hear that slogan, Canada's broken?
Well, hello. I really agree with a lot of the other people. You've got a lot of knowledgeable people calling in. They get into the real specifics. I just have kind of a more general perspective on things. I think the whole world is broken. It's not just Canada, and a lot of it is the bureaucracy that every government has going on. I recall quite some. I am a product of the '72 World Series. Believe me, I remember that. The Canada-Russia series.
Yeah.
Grade 9 class, and they wouldn't let me watch it. I had my radio on with my earbud through my shirt, so nobody could, or my earphone. It's by wire through my shirt. Anyways,
yeah.
But an observation, it's the elimination of the middle class. We have rode the backs of the middle class with all of our social programs and everything else, and the politicians. Well, yeah, we have a very robust social programs in place, and the politicians saw an opportunity. Well, we'll bring in other people, we'll populate the country, we'll add more and more and more, but they're not at that middle class level, and they've drawn on the resources, and the middle class is broken. The middle class in our country is broke. It's a new world order rolling in. You get the extremely rich running the show, and everybody's on social programs relying on subsidies and things to get by. And I've lived as a middle class income kind of person my whole life. My first job in '74 was part-time at a grocery store, and it was reasonably well paying. It was $2.93 an hour, almost enough to buy a case of beer. And yeah, I was buying a case of beer in grade 10. Yes, I was. And it was $3 for a case of beer. And so for an hour's work, part-time, I could buy a 12-pack of beer. Can you say that now? Can people working part-time afford every hour? Are they making what, $25, $30? I don't drink anymore, so I don't even know what the cost of a 12-pack of beer is. But
12-pack, I don't know.
I think it's a representation. It's just our middle income is disappearing because they've supported the country. The politicians have ridden the backs. They don't get the tax breaks because they're making too much money, but they don't get the social benefits because they're
too much.
They're not wealthy enough to have all the loopholes working in their favor. So
okay, all right, interesting. Okay, you would say the middle class is broken.
I feel that the politicians.
Are you still proud of Canada?
Interest.
Are you still proud of Canada? I mean, you are. Okay.
I am.
Right, well,
I'm proud of the people. Okay. I'm proud of the people.
Proud of the people. Okay. All right. Thank you for your call. Going to move along here to Guelph, Ontario. Mike. Hello, Mike.
Hey, Rob. How you doing today?
I'm good, Mike. What do you think when you hear Canada is broken? What goes through your mind?
Well, I've got part of the conversation. I drive around and I've heard some of the comments that people were saying. Canada's not broken.
Okay.
Canada was hijacked.
Hijacked. Okay. By who?
And 80%, 90% of Canada, and 80%, 90% of Canada really don't know what's going on in the world today. Okay.
Okay.
And what's happening? Our government hijacked the country. The last 10 years, why have prices gone up so much?
Well, I suppose for any number of reasons.
These are all questions that need answers. I know the answers. Okay. I'm not going to discuss them with you, but...
Okay, all right. And to keep them a secret from all of us?
No, when you say things, people cut you off. So I basically, you know what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is, all this resolve, this is a little bit of information I'm going to give you. Okay. All this resolve that's going on now is going to be resolved this year. And when it comes to Trump, I agree with what he's doing. But when it comes to the tariffs, did you know why he put tariffs on Canada? I'll tell you why he put tariffs on.
Okay.
He put tariffs on Canada to get rid of the cabal in Ottawa.
Okay. Well, there are no tariffs on Canada just yet. He's threatened to put tariffs on Canada.
He's basically threatening to put tariffs on Canada. Trudeau's not gone out the door yet.
Right.
Okay. That could be all changed in a few months.
Well, I will say this, and I'll have to wrap up our conversation there. But since the Trump tariff threat, anybody who's been following the polls knows that has actually breathed new life into the fortunes of the Liberal Party. I mean, Trump, the tariff threat, the 51st state. My gosh, it's been a gift to the Liberals, who looked like they were basically dead and buried, and it was going to be a coronation, a Conservative majority government, if and when the next election comes around. Okay, thank you for your call. George in Alberta. Hello, George.
Hi. Well, I think Canada
George.
is broken.
Okay.
Yeah,
why?
and first off, when you have a government, it's only Liberal governments who said, I remember them saying this, because they got caught. Keep people poor and send them a check every month and they'll vote for you forever. And that was for our friends down east in the Maritimes. And they've done that to them. Another thing they said was, we'll take Quebec, you can have the rest. Really? That's how you have a country that's not broken? And the last thing I have to say is about when Justin Trudeau said that all those people who live in Alberta have to go away to work, like we go pipeline, we go build leases. And we keep the economy going and stuff. He called us rapists, thieves, murderers, and the people who lived in these towns were terrified. They're not as wrong.
I don't remember him saying any of that. I'm not saying he's been any friend to Alberta, but I don't remember him calling you thieves and rapists and murderers and whatnot.
He did. You check back and you'll see it. And the other thing is, what kind of a country isn't broken when your vote doesn't count? The last 3 elections, my vote says it hit the Manitoba voter. It's over. My vote doesn't count.
All right. Okay. Well, everybody's vote counts, sir. They wouldn't count the votes. Thank you, George. Though I'm going to move along. Go to Tammy. Probably be the last call today. Hi, Tammy.
Hi.
Fit you in here,
how are
Tammy.
you?
I'm good.
Can you hear me?
Thanks for calling.
Oh, good.
Hear you just fine. Yeah.
Great. So your question is Canada broken? And I'm proud to be a Canadian.
Well, my question is more, how do you react when you hear that? How do you feel when you hear that? Okay.
I feel like it's a true statement. Canada is broken. Look at our healthcare system. Look at our education system. These tariffs between the provinces are just ridiculous. I work in education, so I can tell you that I see it from the inside, how many of our systems are broken. You want to know how further that Canada's broken? We are one of the most taxed countries in the world, and yet do we see the result of those taxes? So I like to talk to new immigrant students. I'm in high school, so they're old enough to have these conversations. And I say, ask questions. How come your family is here? And there's a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's because of war, financial reasons. They are being threatened. But, the people that I talk to, these kids that I talk to, they're saying, we don't want to stay here. These are new immigrants whose families were sold an idea that doesn't exist
I've taken
anymore.
calls from immigrants who have said that. I have taken calls from people who have come to Canada, and they have told me straight up, it's not all it's cracked up to be. I've taken those calls.
Yeah, they were sold this Canadian dream that hasn't existed for 30 or 40 years, and their children see it right away from the way that their parents are struggling in a country that has done nothing better for them than where they were originally from, and they want to leave. These kids, they say, I want to get a good job, make good money, and I'm going to leave with that money. And I'm going to go back to where my family's from because there's nothing
now,
here
despite
for
all
us
this,
anymore.
you say that it's a true statement. Canada is broken. Are you still proud of Canada?
I'm proud to be Canadian, but I'm not proud of what Canada has become. I'm not proud of what Canada is anymore. And I am looking to leave too. And there are a lot of other people. There are a lot of my peers who were done. We're done with, our parents and grandparents came here as immigrants and they built a life. That life, it peaked. That ability peaked in like the 70s or early 80s. We can't do that here anymore. So it's time to sell everything, take what we have and go.
Okay.
It's time to leave.
All right. Okay. Sorry to hear that. I'm going to stick it out. And I'll be back tomorrow with another Talkback. New topics, more of your calls. Really enjoyed the discussion today. Thanks to everyone who participated. The latest breaking news is coming up next. This is News Radio.